make your decisions for next year, but then it ramps back up again in the spring. So there's cycles to it, but
There's always trucking, right?
oh yeah, oh yeah.
You hope.
Wait, we are live streaming at this point, even though we haven't started yet, so, you know. Choices.
So don't tell any off-color jokes.
Good idea to. Do we want to record the regular recording? Right. Never done this before.
And I do have the mic on, so if anybody needs to speak out here, you'll need to go to the mic.
So are we ready?
I believe so, it's 6:01.
All right, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Can we have a roll call of members, please?
Scott Hatzensberger is absent. Andy Bailey is absent. Stacy Pettigo.
Here.
Chester Bankus.
Present.
Grant Muller.
Here.
Staff members Liz Stitzel and Kat Bell, as well as Attorney Jay Moore are present.
All right, how about the minutes from last month?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Stacy Pettigo.
Yes.
Chester Bankus.
Yes.
Grant Muller.
Yes.
Approved it, right?
And we don't have any old business, correct?
That is correct.
So we'll move into the public hearings, and if you go ahead and take us through the staff report for the first one, docket 25-22.SE.
Yes. So this is the application of Clinton Perry School. And this is specifically some lighting related requests. They're requesting variances from the night sky ordinance, the lighting standards, to allow 2 of their fixtures to sit at 63 foot from the west property line instead of the required 3 times the fixture's mounting height. To allow fixtures to have a color temperature configuration of 700K instead of the maximum allowed at 3000K. And then to allow the fixtures to have some areas on the field that are as bright as 59.5 foot candles on the football field and 71.5 on the baseball field instead of the normal maximum of 30 foot candles. So this is replacement lighting on the football field. There's already lighting there that's older and non-compliant, although it may not actually still be there at the moment, but it was there. And historically has been, and the way it was explained to us, there were some concerns about the structural stability of the poles and safety. So they decided it was time to upgrade the lighting to something with a stronger structure that was more modern. And then they were unaware that there was a lighting ordinance, so they kind of worked through this. And they did revise some things to make sure that the lights are fully shielded, and the light is gonna stay on the field. But these were just a few items where it wasn't possible to quite meet. So this site's on 32.984 acres. It does serve Clinton Perry School Corporation for parking, outdoor athletic events such as football, track, and baseball. They have requested permits recently for the outdoor lighting replacement, that we put a hold on that because of the standards. So they need these variances in order to be able to proceed with the lighting replacement as planned. The 2 lights on the west side of the football field that were there before were legal non-conforming in that they already sat at the 63 foot from the property line. But when they were removed and the new ones, you know, would kick in that 3 times standard, but they want to be able to put them where they were before. And you've got your foot candles and your CCT, your color temperature variances as well. There's a picture there on the second page, just showing you the locations of the football field and the baseball field, and then there's a photo that kind of looks out across the football field and across the baseball field, so you can get a sense for what's there. There's 3 findings that need to exist in order to grant a variance. First, that the approval will not be injurious to public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. So in regards to the height setback, if something catastrophic did occur that caused either of those 2 fixtures to fall, they are still either gonna fall across the school's property or out across toward the surrounding farm ground. there's not any, houses or other structures that would be in danger in this particular case, and there doesn't seem to be any reason to believe that those things are suddenly gonna arrive on the backside of the school along the farm field. The lighting restrictions are adopted and enforced specifically to protect the Prairie Grass Observatory, and, the observatory, does appreciate the consideration given to excess lighting and the attempt to preserve the night skies for use. I think Russ Casper is here this evening, that may be able to report to the board as well, but he had let us know that after he reviewed the proposed plan, since the lights will be during outdoor events only and not on all the time, and they've met the shielding requirements, they don't have any objection to the proposed plan. Two, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. The previous lights were in their current location for many years, they were unshielded and kind of went in all directions, and no concerns were received about safety or quality of life over the years from nearby residents or landowners. It doesn't appear there's any reason to be concerned about new lights that are replacing the old ones. And again, the lights are only in use for a few hours, a few times a week during fall and spring for sporting events, as you're on the edges of the seasons when you can be outside. Three, the strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property. So the practical difficulty in terms of the setback for the two lights is that if you met the required setback, they would literally be in the middle of the football field, which would make it a little bit difficult to play. So it makes sense that they would need to be along the edge, and the football field has been in that location for a number of years, so it doesn't, there's not really somewhere else to just relocate the entire field to get the lights to meet. The second item is the foot candles, and in this case, there's a concern to make sure there is adequate lighting. One of the other challenges with the old lights is despite being very bright in the sky up above and at a distance, in the area, they didn't shine real even or good light across the playing surface. So, the effect of making sure that they have enough light for the playing surface is there are some areas where the foot candles are a little bit higher. I would note, and it's an interesting nuance in our ordinance, if Clinton Prairie was televising their games, then there would be no restriction on the foot candle brightness on the field, but because they're not televised, they have that 30. So the ordinance does seem to recognize that there are some situations where more brightness may be necessary for good visibility for playing of sports. And finally, you've got the practical difficulty for the color temperature, and this one was interesting. We learned a little bit on this, because initially when Kat wrote this, you're kind of like, well, what does color have to do with anything? And it was explained to us from their engineering that the color temperature they want to be in, 5,000 to 5,700 K, is pure white, and that's the color of choice for sports, both professional and non-professional school sports. And it has to do with how well you can see the ball, and apparently not all color temperatures are the same in terms of the contrast that you get, and so it actually can directly relate into safety in terms of players being able to perform at peak and being able to accurately see what's coming at them and not end up getting hurt or hurting someone else. So there does appear to be a practical difficulty, and we found that finding was met. So consequently, staff does recommend to approve the following variance requests. The two new replacement lights on the west side of the football field placed in says the same location, but same relative to the distance from the property line, which is 63 foot. That the color temperature configuration can be no more than 5,700 K, and that the foot candles for the football field can be a maximum of 59.5, and the baseball field 71.5 on the field. I would note we did receive a letter of objection, which I believe Kat did scan and send on to the board. This is from Lindell Tunnel trustee. And I believe they must own land in the area because they must have received notice. They're located in Georgia. It just says that they object to the changes. It doesn't actually say anything about how it affects their quality of life or what the reason for the objection is. And they haven't contacted us by phone or any other means. So we weren't able to determine if there was anything that would change for this particular landowner, but their letter is simply an objection. So the board is aware that they feel that way. And other than that, I don't believe we've got any other contact, and that would be our recommendation.
Thank you. the petitioner have anything to add?
I think was covered it all pretty well. I just reiterate that, you know, the number of times that these lights are going to be on, they might be 8 times in the fall. I mean, in a good year, that, just because of daylight savings time, and once again in the spring, the baseball lights, those are new, but that is also gonna be something because of daylight savings time, they may not be on very often. What it does give us the ability to do, that we can't do right now, is that when games are rained out, and if we wanna reschedule and try to do like some double headers, we can't do that right now. This will give us that ability to not lose games for our athletes, and down the road, if Clinton Prairie should decide want to put in to be a host for, say, the baseball sectional, right now they can't do that because we don't have lighting, but with this, it will allow us to do that. So those are just a couple of little regulations. She's correct, our 4 poles lean in 4 different directions, and when the wind blows, sway is an easy word. I mean, they really, I worry significantly when I see the wooden poles, and what will replace them is steel poles on a very significant concrete base with LED lighting, so there's also energy savings.
Anyone else have anything?
Thank you. Did you want me to build a microphone to stay here?
Oh,
We should be
yeah,
using the microphone.
sorry, I forgot.
This is new.
Where's the camera? There it is. Well, first of all, thank you for the lighting ordinance. It's a big deal for the observatory. I know Stacy serves on the Camp Cullum board with me. Liz has been great on keeping me informed. Hey, I'm a Clinton Prairie grad. We love growth and so forth. I'm only here just to remind why we're doing this, to remember. I had a 15-year-old come from Indianapolis one night out to the observatory, and he says, "What is that?" Well, it was the Milky Way. And I said, "Well, that's the Milky Way." He says, "What's that?" He had never seen the Milky Way before. 15 years old, had never seen it before. And I said, "Come over here, let me show you what the Milky Way is." And so I got our big binoculars, our big $1,700 binoculars. And I said, "Take a look at this." And I put it up near Cygnus the Swan, some of the densest areas of the Milky Way. Thousands of stars in the binoculars. And he goes, "Wow." That's what I'm trying to protect. And that's why the shielding is so important, and I appreciate that. The shielding, why spend money to light up the belly of a 747 jet? Why spend money to light up the bottom of Liz's airplane? You know, it doesn't do any good for anybody, and it costs you money. So the shielding, full cutoff at horizon is really important. I fear someday we're going to lose the Milky Way here. I'm just trying to slow that day down by full shielding. The development out at I-65 and 28, I had one of our gray hair mentors that's in the Wabash Valley Astronomical Society came up to me about a year ago, and he says, "Well, Russ, we might lose the star party here someday." We can't keep, just hoping to keep that Milky Way. We have to fight for it, but you guys are doing it right with the shielding, and it is very few nights a year. But I'm here only to let you know why, that lighting ordinance is good, and it is important. We're not trying to torment anybody. We're trying to save the Milky Way.
Thanks.
Our latest project on the dome, we're going to have remote control of the observatory. So I will be able to, at Wesley Manor or Clinton House or at Clinton Prairie High School at night, get out the computer, open up the observatory, slew to certain objects remotely, nobody out there, and close everything up that day is coming. We've already got the electronic package for the dome. We've got the internet there. We need about a $11,000 mount, which we have $14,000 in our account. So, you know, we're on its way to have a remote-controlled telescope out there, which we'll share at Wesley Manor and Clinton House and do more outreach that way so that we can wow the kids into science.
Anyone else on this case? Board discussion?
I'm glad that people took concerns and made the lighting so that it does affect our lighting conditions in the proper way, that the observatory still functions, and that there's communication there among people that are concerned within our area. It's kind of hard to tell what the other petitioner has given to us with the letter, but this seems like a very good item to approve. Especially considering the safety aspect of the lighting
Yeah.
for the field, so. If there's no other discussion, I'd like to make a motion to approve application CC 2022-00767, docket 2522 VA, and according to the findings of the staff report, which were incorporated in the motion by reference. Need a second.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Right, Stacy Pettigo,
Yes.
Chester Venkis,
Yes.
Grant Bowler.
Yes.
Approved 3-0, so, you guys will be able to get the rest of the permit for the lights themselves and, get going with that.
All right, the next one has a waiver of the filing deadline, so do we need to vote on that first, Liz?
Yes, you do, and, because it's a waiver, well, actually, there's only 3 of you, so you have to be unanimous in anything you do tonight. But, to waive rules, you definitely have to, all be unanimous, or else you're not gonna move beyond that point.
Okay. I'll go ahead and make a motion to waive the filing deadline.
Second.
Roll call vote,
Stacy Pettigo,
yes.
Chester Venkis,
Yes.
Grant Bowler,
Yes.
All right, Liz,
deadline waived.
if you can go ahead and take us through the staff report, docket 2622 SE.
Sure, so Kat did a great job of preparing this for you guys. And this is the applicant of Zach Northrup. Awesome. It's a request for a special exception for a single residence in the agricultural zoning district. The petition site consists of 11.949 acres of land on the east side of North Hamilton Road between West County Road 300 North and West State Road 38 in section 23 of Madison Township. The site does have an existing dwelling already on it, and if this application is approved, the petitioner would like to put a second non-farm dwelling on the site. Prior to the new dwelling being built, if the BZA approves this request, then 5 acres will be split off of the 11.94 acres for the new dwelling site, and that will require a 2-lot minor subdivision through the area plan commission. You can see on the second page, there is some floodplain, in and around and over the edges of this lot. And then you can see there kind of where the proposed new lot is gonna be versus the existing dwelling, kind of dividing, that irregular lot in half roughly. There's a picture there on the third page, just kind of shows you the driveway access for the existing dwelling, looking from Hamilton Road, over to the southwest. The applicant is seeking approval just for one more dwelling. There's 4 criteria in section 513.03 of the UDO that the board shall affirmatively find are met in order to approve. So first, that the lots shall be located such that the proximity to other dwellings, the configuration of the parent tract, or the location of creeks, ditches, and other natural features have the least negative impact on the use of agricultural equipment or the use of the property as part of a farm. So this site is pretty much surrounded by woodland. There's floodway fringe, and floodway along the west and the north. The site does have some pasture and grazing used by the petitioner, and there is an existing dwelling that the petitioner's mother resides in. The new dwelling being built will be in the same vicinity, but there'll be sufficient space in between, and this really isn't, a property that's been conventionally farmed, so there's a pretty minimal impact in terms of, changing any pasture and grazing that might be there. Two, locating a dwelling on the new lot would not require changes in road surfaces or bridges. So, this new dwelling would have a shared access road from North Hamilton, and North Hamilton Road is a paved road. It currently serves farm equipment and several dwellings. There doesn't appear that adding one new dwelling will have a significant effect on the traffic flow or volume. Three, locating a dwelling on the new lot would not interfere with current agricultural practices in the adjacent area, nor substantially restrict the expansion of confined feeding and other agricultural practices. So this location does not appear to have any confined feeding operations within a mile that the new dwelling would have any effect on. The new lot will be snuggled up between the woodland and the existing house, and will have the largest portion of the floodplain on it. And floodplain is not suitable for row cropping use. It would not appear to interfere with any other current agricultural practice that takes place in the area. And I'll kind of add into that, that the fact that there's already an existing house there means there's already a quarter-mile circle around that spot where you can't put a confinement facility in anyway. So a second house next to it is not gonna change that. Four, that there are mitigating circumstances in the application of the above rating criteria. So the primary mitigating circumstance is that this proposed new lot is mostly surrounded by woodland and floodplain. So it's not valuable land for farming operations despite being zoned agriculturally. This lot is also part of a lot that is existing and maintained with a house and not part of a tillable field. It's staff's understanding that the petitioner's mother, who owns the lot and currently resides there, will be splitting off the 5 acres for the petitioner to build a house on, so his family can also reside there. And I'll note, it's kind of a rare thing, there's always the old debate in Clinton County, when you look at our comprehensive plan, you don't wanna take land out of farm fields, you also don't wanna take land out of woodlands and wetland areas. It's actually really hard to find a lot that isn't either one, and this actually is one of those lots, so, where you've managed to avoid both of the above. There's 6 additional special exception standards in section 203.11A. First, the proposed use conforms to the district provisions where it will be located and the general regulations of the ordinance. If the board grants the special exception, then another single-family home would be permitted on the property, pending APC approval for the 2-lot minor subdivision. That will include the existing dwelling due to the shared access and the split, creating 2 lots under 20 acres in size. 2, the proposed use shall not involve any element or cause a condition that may be dangerous, injurious, or noxious to any other property or persons, and shall comply with the performance standards herein. The health department has received a soil test report, minimum specs have been determined, and the site has been determined to be suitable for a septic with a perimeter drain outlet. 3, the proposed use shall be sited, oriented, and landscaped so the relationship of its buildings and grounds to adjacent buildings and properties does not impair health, safety, or comfort, or adversely affect values of adjacent properties. So again, this is pretty much surrounded by woodland and floodplain. There's still plenty of room to build the home outside of the floodplain and get the septic in. Even though it's located in the ag district, there's already 1 dwelling on the property. There's not really room for this to have tillable on it. So between the buildings, the woodland, the floodplain, and the irregular shape of the property in the first place, the petition site does not appear to have much value for farming or to neighboring farmers. 4, the proposed use shall produce a total environmental effect consistent with and not harmful to the environment in the neighborhood. Again, there's already a residence there, and the proposed new home is for family. The 2 dwellings will be spaced sufficiently apart, but will share a drive. And there's heavy foliage covering this area, so neither dwelling is actually easy to see from the road. It doesn't appear there'd be much effect on the neighborhood versus what's there now. 5, the proposed use shall organize vehicular access and parking to minimize conflicting traffic movement on adjacent streets. With 5 acres basically on each of these lots, there's definitely adequate space for the required off-street parking of 2 spaces. And finally, the proposed use shall promote the objectives of the ordinance and be consistent with the comprehensive plan. Objective 1, Policy 1 of the 2012 Comprehensive Plan states to minimize development on agricultural land. The Madison Township Future Land Use Plan designates the township as having varied topography, more so than other Clinton County townships, and thus having several areas that are appropriate for rural residential development. Madison Township is expected to continue to see development pressure because of the close proximity of I-65 and the east side of Lafayette. Since this new lot is heavily surrounded by woods, already on a lot with an existing dwelling, and the other houses nearby have reasonable spacing, it would appear the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Consequently, staff recommends to approve the special exception request, noting again that minor subdivision approval will be necessary from the Plan Commission if approved by the BZA.
Thanks, Liz. The petitioner have anything to add?
Nothing further.
Yeah, if you're gonna talk, go ahead.
Right, it's just,
You don't need a microphone.
I have nothing further to add.
Thanks. Anyone else have anything to add?
The only thing I would note, and this has it's not really even relevant for, at this stage, the proposed drawing looks like it's getting awfully close to that building for their lot line. So you wanna, you'll wanna make sure you have enough setbacks so you don't have to come back for another variance.
If the closest building is a house, then they need 15 foot. If it's a barn, they need 5 foot.
Okay,
I can't tell which
I
it
don't know
is.
which that is.
But
It would be a barn, there's nothing, yeah, that's the.
So you would
Yeah,
need to
5
be at,
5 foot
make
off.
sure, at least 5.
they want more than that.
Yep,
Yeah.
I take whatever recommendations you guys get.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up so we didn't have another variance hearing because when you drew the map, it was too close.
Fair point.
I wanted to just take that building so you could pay the taxes on it.
Any board discussion?
Well, it's always great that they don't take farmland and reduce that, so that's one plus. And, it looks like this is another situation where we have land and it's a great use for the land that is there. So
Agree.
it seems like it's a good move to approve. So with that said, I'll make a motion to approve application CC 2022 00777, docket number BZA 2622 SE, according to the findings of the staff report, which were incorporated in the motion by reference.
I'll second. Roll call vote, please.
Stacy Pettigrew,
Yes.
Chester Bengkus,
Yes.
Grant Bowler.
Yes.
Right, so you are ready to move on to locating a surveyor and starting to put together a plat. You can reach out to Caterai if you have any questions about that process, or if you use a surveyor who's not familiar with our rules, if he reaches out, we can put him in touch with the right sections of the ordinance to get something prepared that will be standard.
You guys have been nothing but helpful, so.
That is our goal.
Being succeeded, that is amazing, and she helps me in everything I do, so. We've been going through this process, you know.
For a while, you've been trying to
Yep.
get this figured out, yeah. No problem.
Any new business, Liz?
I believe I'm new business free.
Awesome.
I just wanna make a quick note that, I'll bring this back up again next month in September, but, I do have it written down that this room will be closed again in October through the first part, so it
Oh,
looks like the October meeting will be affected, so.
Okay.
So we may need to, I
Go
guess
to-
we'll look to see if we can go to Old Stony or.
Probably out there, cause I don't
Go
wanna
to-
run into a problem like
They
we
voted
did
here.
before.
Early voting's here.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
This civic duty that seems to be important.
Seems to be.
So just a heads up that I'll make sure that y'all are aware of that.
So we'll
Okay.
look at the airport, and I guess that where it warrants making the announcement, since we're being broadcast, that, that October meeting then will not be broadcast because there is no technology in alternative locations to be able to do that. So we'll try at September's meeting to remember to restate that, but so anyone who's listening will know why there won't be a meeting broadcast that day.
Sounds good.
Next meeting, September 27th. And if there's nothing else, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. I guess then we'll see if we can like email that to ourselves or how that works.
Cat,
Get people together. recorded.
Cat, I don't know if you took notice, but on the agenda, both of them had docket, 26, 20, well, one was 25 and one was 22, but they both had 22 SE on the tail end versus it was different here,
Yeah, so is it different on the?
yeah. So, so this one here had
This one has.
25, 22
all the
BA.
agendas.
On the agenda, it
and then
says SE and the.
This one here.
back-
Oh,
had-
that's because this is a special exception,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah,
a
got it.
variance.
Yep,
But
he's
they were
right,
both
there's a
listed
typo.
here,
It's-
they were both listed here as SE.
Oh, okay,
We got ourselves in a hurry, got ahead of ourselves.